Here's the Chicana Kitchen New Mexico green chile stew. The full recipe is in the description. We hope you can get your hands on some New Mexico green chiles and give this recipe a try. To make our green chile stew, we of course need green chiles. These are New Mexico green chiles or hatch green chiles. I'm able to get some once a year from my grocery store, so I roast them, process them. You can get them canned, you can get them frozen. Whatever you do, you're going to chop them up before you put them in the stew. About a medium yellow onion, 5 cloves of garlic, a pound or so of potato. We're going to peel and chop those. A cup or so of corn, fresh, frozen, canned, again, whatever you have. Pinto beans, we'll use about a cup and a half of pinto beans. These are ones that I've cooked from scratch. That recipe will be linked in the description, but canned are fine. If you want to make it vegetarian, you can omit the chicken, or you can include, I'm going to use some chicken in my recipe. Likewise, we can use chicken stock, chicken bouillon, or just vegetable stock or vegetable bouillon. A little bit of water, some salt to taste, and olive oil to cook our aromatics is all we'll need. We've seasoned and cooked chicken breasts. We're going to get these out of the pan. I'm going to put them on a plate to rest, covered in foil. We'll shred those in a little bit to go back into our stew, but in the meantime we're going to keep these juices and this oil, and we're going to put our aromatics, our onion and our garlic in here to cook to form the base of our stew. So our chicken is resting, and while it does that, we are cooking our onion in the chicken pan. We added a little bit more oil, and we're going to let those onions cook until they brown up a little bit. If you're skipping the step with the chicken, or you're skipping the chicken entirely, you can go ahead and do this directly in your sauce pot with some olive oil and just add a little bit of salt and pepper to your onions. So our onions have browned up a bit. We're going to add the garlic and cook that for another 30 seconds or so. By the way, we diced our onions and we chopped our garlic fairly finely. This is all going to keep cooking in the stew, but this just gives us a really nice base. And it allows us to pick up the flavor from roasting, cooking the chicken in this pan. We'll put a little bit of olive oil in here. And we'll go ahead and take these aromatics and put them into the pot. A quick word about using these two different pans. I just really like how chicken cooks in my old cast iron. You could absolutely do all of this in one pot if you want. And again, you could also skip that chicken entirely. All right, so our onions are in this pot. We are going to add to that our green chile. I took the chiles that I'd roasted and chop them up finely. You can absolutely use canned green chile or frozen chile, whatever you can get a hold of. All right, so we're going to put these in the pot. We're going to let those flavors meld together for a few minutes, and then we're going to add our stock. Stir these around a bit. Don't worry about stuck bits. That stuff's going to pick up as we cook. So you'll want about 4 cups or so of broth or stock, or a combination of bouillon and broth and stock. Add all that in. We'll give it a stir. Again, we're picking up any of the stuck bits of onion and garlic and green chile. Quick word about the heat on this, the spiciness. Green chiles can vary from being fairly mild to fairly spicy. It's nothing like a cayenne or an habanero or anything, but they can have a bit of a bite. When you buy them from like the canned aisle at the grocery store, they'll be labeled, but if you get them fresh as produce, you kind of don't know what you're going to get. Give it a sniff, give it a test. You can always add heat, so just think about it that way. We're going to go ahead and add our potatoes. I've chopped them, roughly in soup size. And once we do that, we'll give it one more stir. And at this point, we're going to cover our stew and let those potatoes cook. We've let our chile come to a boil and simmer in order to cook our potatoes. We're going to give them a check for doneness before we add the rest of our ingredients. Take a fork, make sure it goes through the potatoes without much resistance. Okay, there we go. They're ready. So we'll go ahead and add, the rest of our ingredients. We have some corn. This was fresh off the cob, but whether you've got fresh corn, canned, frozen, it really doesn't need much of any time in the pot. So we'll go ahead and give that a stir. And this stuff smells fantastic. I think I could wear green chile as perfume. As silly as that sounds. All right, so we've got our corn stirred in. We're going to take our pinto beans. Again, these are beans that I made. I do this a lot. I'll make pinto beans in big batches in the fall and the winter and put them in the freezer. Of course, you can use canned beans, whatever pinto beans you have. I'll put about cup and a half, 2 cups of beans. That's roughly what you would get out of a 15-ounce jar, or a can rather, of pintos. So we'll put those guys in. And remember our chicken, we're going to add the chicken that we shredded while the rest of this cooked. We're going to put some of that chicken in the pot as well. Again, the chicken is optional. Another thing that is traditional with green chile is pork. If you have shredded pork, roasted pork, that's a great addition to this stew as well. We're going to give that a stir and let this cook for a few more minutes just to let all the flavors come together. Our stew is cooked for a few more minutes to let the flavors meld together. Now it's time to take a taste. Got our potato, our chicken, our green chile and our pintos, as well as our corn. Perfect.